What is up, everyone? It's David. Welcome back to Gem Mint MTG, where we talk about all things related to graded Magic the Gathering cards. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the Beckett submission that I just got back, that I had submitted back in December of 2020. Took a total of about a year for the cards to come back. I'm going to show you all the cards, go over the subgrades, talk about some of the issues that I had with the cards. Beckett is getting a lot more strict. I'll show you examples of that. Before we get into that, if you're not already a subscriber here, please hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to grow this channel on YouTube because there's not a lot of people talking about graded cards on a regular basis, and I'm trying to change that, and I would love for you to be a part of it. So please hit that subscribe button. Join the fun. All right, let's get into these cards. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here with some of the more expensive items. These are the oldest cards that I had in the submission. These three cards are from Unlimited. So let's go ahead and check these out. We have a mint condition 9 quad plus Bayou, beautiful card. And then we have a 9 mana vault. This would be a basic plus plus. It's a 9 centering, 9/5 on the surface and edges, and 8/5 on the corners. Really beautiful card. Mark Teeden art. If you watch my channel, you know Mark Teeden's one of my favorite artists, and this one will be added to my Mark Teeden collection. And then this is actually another copy of Bayou that I'd graded as an 8. So overall, on the Unlimited cards, I felt like the grades were very fair. I was satisfied with all of them. I knew that the Bayou in the middle here, this guy, I knew that this one was likely not going to grade anything above an 8, maybe 8.5. But yeah, these two, I was really happy about getting 9s on both of these. I collect graded unlimited cards, and these are going to be added to that part of my collection. And overall, I was happy with the grades on these. So let's move over now. Let's take a look at some revised cards. Now, I'm going to start off here. We'll get started off with this stack over here. Getting started here with 2 copies of Fast Bond. So both of these came out as a 9. This one is a 9 quad plus, and this one here is just a 9 with the 8.5 centering. So overall, very, very nice cards. This one in particular, 9 quad plus, really, really pretty card. I grade a lot of, I collect and grade a lot of revised stuff. I feel like revised is still kind of undervalued, and a great way to get into graded collecting for a lower price point than a lot of the more vintage cards. So I am a big proponent of revised cards, collecting, grading. I love the set, and yeah, an iconic reserve list card like Fast Bond. I love it. I'm really happy with those two as well. So you can see so far, really nothing to complain about. I know there's been a lot of talk about the Beckett quality going down, and people having issues with their grades. There are a couple cards in here that I do feel like there were issues with, and I'll point those out when we get to them. But so far, everything is fine. No 9/5s, but nothing crazy, off or anything. So this next one here is a few doppelgangers. Got 3 doppelgangers. So we've got a 9 quad plus, basic 9 plus plus, and 8.5 near mint. So this is just one of my favorite cards, one of my favorite artworks. Absolutely love Quinton Hoover art. I have a few Quinton Hoover cards graded. I'll add that to that part of my collection. And I wanted to have just a couple extra copies. Sometimes if I really like a card, I'll submit a few copies because I want to give myself the chance to get some to high grades and not necessarily just rely on one copy. Except in some circumstances. I'll show you some stuff that I submitted a 1 of. But this card in particular, I wanted to have a mint or a gem mint one that I graded myself. So I sent in a few of them, and overall I'm happy with them. I really wish that one of these would have came back a 9/5. I will continue submitting doppelgangers until I get one. But overall, I'm happy. They're 9s. This one's a quad plus. This one, I feel like It was so close, so close, but didn't make it. And then the 8.5, just a little more. I guess just a little more wear um, than I expected. Some surface issues on this one that perhaps I didn't pick up. I'm going to try to be more careful about checking surface issues because that seems like one of the things consistently throughout this submission that Beckett was a lot more strict on was surface and edges. Centering didn't seem like it really changed much there in terms of their standards of centering, but the edges, corners, and surface definitely seemed like there was a little more scrutiny in those areas. So I'm going to try to pay a lot more attention to the cards that I submit in those subgrades. But I mean, this is a beautiful card. I absolutely love this. This is gonna be, this one's probably gonna be with me forever. I don't see myself ever selling that. But I like having a couple extra copies. So if I wanna sell it, it's not. I'm not selling my only copy. Let's go on to more revised stuff. Okay, so this is a funny one. So if you saw my submission video where I went over the cards that I was grading, you know that this is one of my favorite cards in Magic. JM Daytome. I submitted 4 of them. These are 4 of my best. And I got 1 gem mint, which I am really happy about. This is Mark Teaton art. It's not an expensive card. It's just a card that really that I just really love as a player and as a collector. This is just one of my favorite artworks in the game. I love the card. I use it in old school decks, and it's so iconic to me that even though it's not an extremely valuable card, it has a lot of value to me as a player and as a collector. And I wanted to submit my own, and I wanted to get a gem mint, and I am really happy that I did. And same thing with with the doppelganger and others. I submitted a few copies because I wanted to give myself the chance to get a 9.5 that I graded on my own. It's just very personally satisfying. So yeah. And then I got a few extra copies. So if I ever know anyone who's collecting revised or anything like that, or if I want to get rid of one, I could sell it. Not a lot of financial value or anything, but just a really cool card by one of my favorite artists, Mark Teaton. So that's going to be added to my Mark Teaton collection, and yeah, really happy with it. Okay, so let's get into the last of the revised stuff here. Okay, let's just go over this. So this card, everybody knows this one. I've got 3 copies of Wheel of Fortune. So we got 3 copies here: an 8.5, a 9, and a 9.5. So the whole spectrum of grades here. But Wheel of Fortune, these were ones that I had picked up a while ago. I still pick up copies of this card when I see it at a good price point in really good condition. But these copies in particular, I got quite a while ago, so my cost basis on these was pretty low. So even though I knew that I wasn't going to be getting gem mint on probably all of them, I still wanted to submit them because to me, like I talked about with the Unlimited Bayou that came out in 8, to me the cost of grading, it's worth it to eliminate any issue that you might have with authenticity or verifying the condition when you go to sell the card. I will probably sell 1 or 2 of these. I already have a few Wheel of Fortunes graded. I think these will be my 4th, 5th, and 6th, or 5th, 6th, 7th. I got to go back and look, but yeah, I already have a few copies of Wheel of Fortune. These are extras. I wanted to grade my own. There's just something about it, personally, to have one that you graded yourself. Like this one is going to stay with me. This is an awesome card. I really love it. And this one is going to stay with me. And I've got some extra copies. So if I want to trade or sell them, I've got a couple extra copies that I can do that with. So yeah, really happy with these Wheel of Fortunes. I think these also, the grades were fair. So over all the cards that we've gone through so far, I don't feel like anything is really off base or anything. So far the accuracy is pretty good. But you'll see coming up here a little later that there are cards that have issues. But so far so good. No issues yet. Really happy with all the cards with the grades. And yeah, let's get on to the last part of this revised collection. Okay, so these are one-ofs. These are just, if you watched my other video, these are just some of my favorite revised cards that I wanted to grade myself. Try to get these all in camera here. But yeah, these are not a tremendous amount of financial value or anything. Let's start off here with this Demonic Hordes. I love this card. I love the art. It's such a beast creature. It's a cool reserve list card from Revised. It doesn't have a lot of financial value, but it was one of my favorite cards growing up. I love the art. It's a reserve list card, and cards like this I feel like are a great way to get into graded vintage reserve list Magic. You don't have to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars to get a card like this. If you want to buy your own copy for $5-10 and grade it for 20-30 bucks, you've got like 30-40 dollars into what I think is a really cool card. It's not something that's gonna be worth $1,000 one day, but I am bullish on cards like this because I think there's a lot of collectors that they just don't have the kind of capital that a lot of other people who have been collecting for a long time, or people who are a little more established have. But there's a lot of people who are interested in it, and I think that cards like this are a great way to get into the hobby and to pick up stuff that has it checks all the boxes. It's a vintage card. It's a reserve list card. It has cool artwork, and it has a nostalgic feeling for a lot of people. So even though it's not an extremely valuable card, it's one of my favorite cards, and I'm happy to have it. And I'm glad that this one came back in 9.5. I think it's a cool card, even though it's not necessarily the most expensive cards. Sometimes you grade cards just because you like them and because you think there's a good future for them, and it's good, just good for the hobby in general. So put that one over here so we can see the rest of these. Yeah, so just more of my favorite revised cards. Siobhan Dragon, Lord of Atlantis, Brain Geyser, Copy Artifact. So these two are reserve list. These two creatures are not. But they're just so cool. I like having a lot of diversity in my collection, like I've talked about. It's not always just about having the most expensive, showy card. Sometimes it's just cards that you like, cards that you enjoy looking at, cards that you have a story with, cards that you grew up playing, or anything like that. And that's what these cards are to me. Is Lord of Atlantis an expensive card? No, it's not. Is it a reserve list card? No, it's not. Is it a cool card? Absolutely. It's got that original artwork and that washed out revised border. It's just, I mean, I think it's cool. And for the, I don't know, $5 that I paid for the card and the $20 that I paid to grade it, would I buy this for $25? Absolutely. I'd probably buy this if somebody sold this on the market. I don't know, what would I pay? I don't know, 50, $100 or something. It's cool. It's cool. It's not a ton of value, but again, this is the kind of stuff that people who are newer to the hobby, or people who don't necessarily have, a ton of cash to spend, can get in on stuff like this at a lower price point and still have a cool, iconic, vintage graded Magic card. So I love it. Awesome card. Everything I just said about Lord of Atlantis applies to Siobhan Dragon. So this is a 9 quad plus. Yeah, really, really neat. Everybody knows this card. Everybody loves Siobhan Dragon. Is it an unlimited or a beta one? No, it's not. It'd be worth a hell of a lot more if it was, but it's still a cool revised card. And I remember I was buying these like not that long ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, for like I don't know, like literally $3 or $4, and they've gone up a lot since then, and I think it kind of bodes well for the future. I kind of like, look at the price on an unlimited one. Go look at the price history on an unlimited Siobhan Dragon. There became a point where people realized that, hey, this is a really cool, iconic vintage Magic card. It probably shouldn't be worth nothing. And the same thing has happened with the Siobhan Dragon. It went from a couple bucks now to like, if you want a really nice, clean, near mint copy, you're probably paying $15 to $20 for that. And so, yeah, for the couple bucks that I spent on the card and the cost of grading it, absolutely worth it to me. Love it. Going to be a great part of my collection. And then we get into the reserve list stuff here. So this is Brain Geyser. This is another Mark Teton art. This is not my only graded Brain Geyser, but my other one is an unlimited one. And I had it. It was in extremely good condition. I was like, I'll submit it for grading. So 9.5 on the centering and the edges, 9 on the corners. Again, the surface, there must have been something on the surface here that I didn't pick up, because I really thought that this was, just about as clean a copy as you could get. I really tried to examine it, but I do think that Beckett is being more stringent and on the surface in particular. But you know what? It's still really, really good shape. Great subgrades. Beautiful card. Reserve list. Love it. Okay, and then we got a copy artifact. Probably the most expensive of these this last batch of revised cards that we were looking at. I already have a couple of these, so this one, I think this is my third graded copy artifact. It's just another iconic reserve list revised card. Bullish on revised. This is actually the last revised card. But yeah, I felt like this one also was fair. It's got 9.5 on the surface and the edges. I was actually really surprised that it had a 9.5 on the surface. Um, you know, Given that most of the other surface grades have come back a lot lower. But yeah, really good subgrades on this one. So once again, no complaints here. Obviously, it would have been great to get a 9.5 on the Siobhan Dragon and one of the doppelgangers. I'll keep submitting those until I get it. But overall, I feel like the grades are fair. They were a little more tough. I think it's fair to say that they are getting a little more tough on the grading, but I don't think it's fair to say that the grading is unfair. It's just they're just raising the bar a little bit, which I think is probably good in the long run. What would you rather have? Ton with all the cards being submitted. What would you rather have? Would you rather have cards that are all overgraded, or would you rather have stuff that's a little tougher grade and maybe undergraded just a little bit? For me, I think it's healthier and probably better in the long run to have cards that are graded a little bit tougher, especially with all the submissions that are getting put in now. Do we want the market completely flooded with all gem mint cards? I don't. I would rather have a lot more of these nines and know that the 9.5s that I'm getting are actually gem mint. That's my personal point of view. I'm does everyone want to get a 9.5 on every one of the cards they submit? Yeah, you know, but in reality, is it good for the hobby if Beckett is just giving out 9.5s all the time? I don't think so. I think that it's a good direction overall for them to be a little tougher on the grades, but know that when you get a 9.5, it's truly a 9.5. That's how I feel about it. All right, so let's go into the next block of cards here. So this is all going to be Silver Age stuff. So the rest of the cards are going to be cards from Mirage through Urza's Destiny. That's kind of what I consider Silver Age. But we'll get started here with stuff from Tempest, Stronghold, Exodus, Mirage, Visions, Weatherlight. Getting started off here with some really nice artifacts here. We got a Mox Diamond 9. Oop. Focus. There we go. Okay, so we got a Mox Diamond and a Lion's Eye Diamond, both graded as a 9. The Lion's Eye Diamond is a 9 quad plus, and the Mox Diamond is got 8.5 on the centering, which I felt like was a little harsh. I mean, it's a little off, but there was plenty of cards that got a 9 that that I that I feel like this was probably more well centered. This was one of the ones where it was like I felt like it was. I felt like the 8.5 was a little harsh on the centering. Does it impact the grade that much? No, it still would have been a 9, but it would have been a 9. 9 quad plus, but whatever. It's still a mint Mox Diamond, absolutely beautiful reserve list Silver Age card. I'm really bullish on cards like this. These like high end reserve list artifacts from the Silver Age. I collect them a lot. If you've seen my videos, this is not my first Mox Diamond. I have several others graded 9 and 9.5. I'm extremely bullish on cards like this because, again, to me, I think there's a new generation of collectors that most likely are not going to be going after mint or gem mint mock original moxes. It's just they're priced so out of the market that it's almost completely out of reach and not attainable. But a card like this, a beautiful reserve list mox that people can afford, that people love this card. This is such an iconic card from the Silver Age. I feel like stuff like this really has legs for a lot of people, especially people who are newer into the grading hobby. I absolutely love these. I'm really bullish on these. I'm happy with the grades. Overall, I feel like the 8.5 on the centering was not consistent with some of the other 9 centerings that I have got that we looked at already. So that was one of my issues. I mean, I can see because it's a little tilted. I feel like it could have been a 9, and that would have been nice. But overall, I'm happy with it. It's not the end of the world or anything. And then moving on to this Lion's Eye Diamond. I love Lion's Eye Diamond. I have several of these as well. This is a card that I have several copies of graded. And yeah, 9 quad plus, really nothing to complain about here. I had picked this card up a while ago from a friend of mine who was getting rid of cards from his collection, and he was more of a collector than a player. And this was a card that kind of just sat in a binder for 20 years and then came out. And so I had paid, I think, like, I don't know, 270 for the card. So I'm like under 300, even with grading. So overall, I'm happy with this one. It's absolutely beautiful. It's another Lion's Eye Diamond for my collection. I feel like all of the grades were fair, and it's an awesome card that I am really bullish on. I think stuff like this is similar to Mox Diamond, where people really really like cards like this. There's a really broad base of people who are interested in cards like this, and I think that base is going to continue to grow as grading gets more and more popular. And I think that cards like this are great for the future. So I love the Lion's Eye Diamond. Another thing about Lion's Eye Diamond and some of these other cards, Mox Diamond too, actually, is this is an extremely popular card to play with. This is not one of those weird cards that you're never gonna use in a deck, and you're never gonna see in a tournament, and it's never gonna get used in EDH. Everything about these two cards in particular, these cards are used all over the place. Legacy, vintage, EDH, kitchen table, whatever. Like, these are cards that people like to play with. I know that there's like this conception that there's millions and millions of copies of all of these running around, and they're all in pristine gem mint condition, and why grade these cards at all because there's so many of them. I just don't believe that. I think a lot of these that exist are played with. They're in decks. They've been in decks for years. They're not gem mint anymore. I mean, look at how much you have to pay if you can find a grade worthy Mox Diamond or Lion's Eye Diamond. It's not cheap, and it's getting more expensive because I've looked. Trust me, I've purchased probably 10 to 20 copies of both of this card in near mint condition in the last few years. Bought, sold, graded, whatever. I've gone through a lot of these, and it's hard to find ones that are absolutely pristine gem mint, never been played with. It's not easy. They're not as common as people think. And I think that the ones that are getting scooped up, getting graded, and coming back like this, I think there's a great future for it. And for newer collectors or people who really like the Silver Age of reserve list Magic, cards like this are going to be, huge parts of those people's collections. So anyway, that's enough about these two. Let's move on to some of the other Silver Age stuff. Let's go here. So see, these are some of the. Got a couple copies of Mana Web. Not a very expensive card or anything. Just a card that I really like. And I really like the set Weatherlight. It was one of the first sets that I ever collected as a kid. And this is one of my favorite cards from it. I think it's got cool artwork. I think it's got a unique ability. It's a reserve list card. It's from the Silver Age. Yeah. All those things that I've mentioned before, just at a lower price point. Again, I think that cards like this are very attractive for newer collectors, younger collectors, people who are kind of priced out of a lot of the other vintage reserve list Magic market. Stuff like this it's just neat. It's a neat card. I'm happy to have it. I didn't pay a lot for these. It didn't, my cost basis on these cards is not very high. It was more so just an addition to that part of my collection, graded Silver Age stuff. I didn't have any of these, and I had some really nice copies, so I got them graded. And Survival of the Fittest, this is one of the more expensive cards, actually. I was a little disappointed with the 8.5, but, I was actually debating if I'll keep this or sell this. I don't know. I honestly haven't decided yet. It's really cool. Really happy with this 9 Quad Plus Plus. This is another one where it's like, I feel like the centering was a little harsh on this one. I know it's not perfect, but I've seen a lot of 9.5 centerings that look like this, and that was the difference between this card being mint and gem mint, or you could say the corners. I mean, I'll try to zoom in on these corners. Like they're pretty good. Are they? There's this there. It's kind of hard to see these. There's like, we're talking like micro infractions when you have this in front of you. It's like, I don't know. I feel like they are really hard on the corners, on some of these. I feel like the centering and the corners on this could have been a 9.5. So it's a little disappointing when you're so close to getting a gem mint and it doesn't make it. It comes back a 9 Quad Plus Plus, and you look and you're like, I think it's centered pretty well. What's wrong with the corners? It's like that. I can see why people would be disappointed getting a card back like this. It's understandable. I feel it now. Like I feel like this card could have been a 9.5. So little disappointing there. But overall, I mean, it's an awesome card. A reserve list, iconic Silver Age card. Awesome art. It's just another, and this is another one of those cards. A lot of these are being played with. There's not that many of these that have just been sitting in a binder untouched for the last 25 years. Like they're not as common as I think people think they are. And I think that the ones that are going to get graded and come back really high, I think there's going to be a great market for them. Anyway, let's move on to some more positive stuff with another one of my favorite reserve list Silver Age cards, Mind Over Matter. Okay, now this. Is this the most expensive card that I submitted? No, the Wheel of Fortune, the Bayou, some of the other stuff, Survival of the Fittest. A lot of the stuff is worth more, but this makes me smile. This is so cool. I absolutely love this card. I love the artwork. It's got Urza. It has the portal, Weatherlight. And to have one that I submitted that came back at Gem Mint. This is one of those ones that I will treasure this card. I don't see myself ever selling this card. To have one that you grade yourself and it comes back like this is just absolutely awesome. Absolutely beautiful card. And then another 9. So this is one that, I would be, more comfortable parting with if the time came. I'm bullish on cards like this in the future. So it's not something that I would be selling anytime soon. But in the future, you know, I could get rid of this one and have another copy for my collection. But I love this card, Mind Over Matter. It's such cool artwork. Um, yeah, another iconic reserve list Silver Age card. Okay, so let's move on to the next block of the Silver Age, all of the Urza's block cards. I'm going to grab those and we'll go through those. All right, so let's get into the last part of this submission, the Urza's block cards. So here we've got 4 copies of Tolarian Academy, one of which came back, a 9.5. Absolutely beautiful, really nice subgrades on this one. A 10 on the surface. I couldn't believe it. I think this was the only 10 surface that I got in the whole submission. So yeah, to get an actual 10 on surface these days, I was really happy about this one. This is going to be in my collection. I love this card, and I'm glad to have a few copies of it. I might end up getting rid of one of them, but this is the kind of card I'm super bullish on this one in the future. I think that cards like this are going to continue to grow in value. I think they're going to be popular with newer collectors that are getting into the game, and for younger people who grew up with cards like this, I'm just really bullish on high grade copies of cards like this, Gaia's Cradle, Sarah's Sanctum, all those Urza's block lands. I feel like they're a steal at today's prices, even today's prices. So overall, really happy with these. No, nothing to complain about. There's one here. Yeah, so this quad 9, I feel like last year this would have been a 9.5. I mean, to the naked eye, I don't see why this didn't have a 9.5 centering or 9 on the corners. You know, this, I feel like in comparison to some of the cards from the past, this one probably would have been a 9.5 in days past, but things are just a little bit more strict now. So I'm still happy to have it. I'm still happy that I graded it. It's not the end of the world, but and it was great to actually get one back in a 9.5. It makes these 9.5s feel really special. You know, this is a pretty much flawless card. All right, so let's get into this last section. Let's get into this first one here that I talked about a lot in the submission video. So this is Metalworker. We got several copies here. I'll lay some of these out. So we have a Gem Mint 9.5. Really beautiful card. Really happy with this one. The rest of these all came out 9 or 8.5. I got an 8.5 over here. But yeah, overall happy with these. I submitted several of them because I wanted to make sure I gave myself a chance to get a Gem Mint one with a few different copies, and I was really happy with this one. It's a really stunning card. I didn't have any graded metal workers, but I had several copies that I had for a while that were in really good condition, and yeah, I felt like it was a good card to submit. These are getting really popular. There's been a lot of chatter about this card ever since there'd been kind of like public buyouts on it and things like that. I had purchased these all long before that had ever happened, so it didn't really affect my cost basis for the card. But cards like this they're really unique. They're really powerful. They have iconic artwork. They're reserve list cards from the Silver Age. I know I go on and on about that, but I really am a big fan of cards like this. This is a card that is attainable for a lot of people who are priced out of the vintage Magic market, especially the high grade graded stuff. Cards like this you can still get in on at pretty affordable prices. And this card is it just kind of checks all of the boxes in terms of what I look for and what I like as a collector, as a player, as a grader, everything. I really like cards like this. I was really happy to get one back that's a Gem Mint. And then I like having a few extra copies that I don't mind parting with. I'll probably, like I said with the other ones, I'm really bullish on these for the future, so I'm not really like in any kind of hurry to sell them. But I do like having a few extra copies that I can sell, when the time comes for that. Okay, so this is the last couple cards, just a couple fun cards here to end the video with. We've got a 9 memory jar, quad 9 plus. Again, this is another one where, um, like, look at the centering on this card. This came back a 9 centering. And, that one where I was talking about earlier, like, that got an 8-5 on centering. I look at a card like this and I feel like this is much more off-centered left to right than that card was. So when that's the difference between one grade and another, and you have something like this, like, don't get me wrong, I'm happy to have a quad 9 plus memory jar. I think it's an awesome card. I love the artwork, obviously. And yeah, so but I feel like there is a little bit more inconsistency with some of these grades. But overall, it's a really really nice card. I'm happy to have it. And we've got Treachery, same thing, 9. So 9-5 on the centering and 8-5 on the corners, 9 on the surface and the edges. Really beautiful card. Once again, iconic reserve list Silver Age card. I absolutely love these cards. I'm continuing to buy and grade them. They're one of my favorite parts of my Magic collection is this Silver Age stuff. I think it has a great future, and I'm trying to add to that part of my collection all the time, and I will continue to submit cards like this. I have more to get graded when things open back up. All right, so I want to say thank you very much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you've made it to the end here, if you're not already a subscriber, hit that subscribe button and join in the fun. I'm going to be talking about graded Magic cards all the time here on Gem Mint MCG and doing stuff like this, reviewing cards that I've submitted, cards that I'm buying, selling, cards that are sold in the marketplace and things like that. So I'd really appreciate it if you join the channel. But yeah, just kind of wanted to wrap things up. Overall, I'm happy with my submission. I'm still glad that I did this. I'm happy with most of the grades, but there are some serious issues that Beckett needs to figure out and that they need to work on. But overall, the grades are more strict, but there's still a lot of 9-5s here. You can still get 9-5s, but they're a lot more strict on subgrades, particularly with corners and edges and surface. So, for people who are doing submissions now, be very, very careful about checking your cards from multiple angles. Look for anything that could throw it off, because chances are it's going to get dinged more than it has in the past. So it's something to be aware of when you're doing submissions. And overall, I just want to kind of talk about the cards that I submitted. I feel like these represent what I like as a collector. I personally like a lot of diversity in my collection. I don't just collect, vintage cards. I don't just collect, Silver Age cards. And I feel like that the grading market is growing so much, and there's a lot of newer people coming into grading, and I think that they're not necessarily looking for the same things that collector or graded collectors from the past were. There's a new generation, and I'm trying to embrace it and see the good in it. I'm really happy to see more people getting into the hobby, more people getting into grading. I think it's great. But I think that it changes things. I think that it changes things in a few different ways. The first one being that, for a lot of people, they are completely priced out of a lot of the graded vintage Magic. The stuff has gotten so expensive that it's not realistic for them to have a piece of graded power or something like that maybe years ago people could afford. Like, those days are long gone, and I don't think they're ever going to come back. But there's a lot of awesome Magic, reserve list Magic that is maybe a little newer or maybe a little more niche, and I think it's great. And I'm trying to embrace it. I love these cards. They mean a lot to me. Like I said, this Mind Over Matter, it's not the most expensive card from my submission, but I would definitely say that of all the cards that I got back, it's in like my top 2 or 3. Same thing with the JMD Tome. JMD Tome is a little bit different of an example. This is just, grading doesn't always have to be about having the most expensive card or the most rare card, low population, whatever. Like sometimes it's just about having a card that you love and a card that you want to submit yourself. And that's what this card is to me. It has pretty much no financial value whatsoever, but I love Mark Teaton as an artist. I love this artwork in particular, and I wanted to have my own copy. And so I graded it. And I think that, don't lose sight of the fun of the hobby when you're only focused on the financial aspect of it. Like, do we all want to get gem mint, super high end vintage Magic cards? Like, yeah, but at the same time, like this is a game, this is a hobby. It's a privilege to have these cards, and sometimes it's just about having fun with cards that you love, and that's part of what my submission is as well. And one of the things that I wanted to convey to you that this channel is about is it's not always about the most expensive card in the highest grade. Sometimes it's about cards that you love, or that have a special place for you in the game, and those cards are special too in their own way. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Until next time, thank you. Have a great one.